Brad Williams, XL prime. As the crow flies, what's the distance between 2 points? Take a look here. We have the well-known formula, x squared, y squared, x squared, y squared. Well, how do we determine distance? Square root d5 minus b5 squared plus e5 minus c5 squared. In other words, this calculation is pretty much a straight line, because if there were curves, you'd have to account for the curves. Using the distance formula and Excel, you can determine the length of a line given its two endpoints. I said distance, a line. Square root, okay, I just explained that. The distance between 2 points given as x squared, or x1 of y1, is equal to the square root of the change in x squared plus the change in y squared, x squared, y squared. The distance formula is an example of the Pythagorean Theorem. Probably haven't heard that word in a long time. Pythagorean, where the changes in x and y correspond to the two sides of a right triangle, and the hypotenuse is the distance being calculated. Okay, we're stepping in onto some thin ice here, because one, Pythagorean. I'm sure at the last dinner party you went to, that was the topic that was of key interest. I'm sure that it was raising all kinds of just laughter. Anyway, Pythagorean theorem, we're going to go into that in a bit, and we're not going to dive in very deep. It'll just be a quick overview. In terms of solving this, if we have coordinates, and I'm going to expand this, negative 19, oh, I'm going to hit F9. I want to see some positive numbers here. Okay. No. All right, no. I just want a positive number here. We have x of 1, 23, y some 1, 19, x of 2, 22, and a negative 23. I didn't want that negative 23, but we'll just go with it. The distance formula, and these are going to be the same, but we're going to use the power function. And here is normal square root function. We said there's a square root and the square deal. Well, here, you have to insert the caret. If you use the power function, you don't need to deal with the caret. What's the caret? It's this upward arrow. Why do they call it a caret? And it's not the carrot you eat. It's like a diamond carrot. I suspect they were looking at this as more of a diamond. Just go with it. Square root, so we go d5 minus b5 squared. So we take the square root. We're going to take the square root of this whole thing. How do we know that? Look at this setup here. You can count parentheses. You can just internally look at this and going, okay, this one's closed, and then we have outside. Or you can count 1, 2, 3 that go inward, and then we have 1, 2, 3 out. The second section is E5 minus C5 squared. That'll give us the distance, or the length of a line. I guess there's going to be a curvature there, and we're not going to get into that, but distance could be theoretically the distance from point A to point B. But if you're flying, you've got to take into consideration the curvature of the Earth, and that's not a topic of this particular tutorial. This is an introduction to Excel. The other technique is to use this power deal. Okay, square root power. Power, it calculates a number raised to a power. That's it. It's just a time saver. So you can use power, and then clearly you don't need to put in the carets. Here's the structure, d5 minus b5. 2 would be the same thing here as this squared. If this was cubed, you would put cubed, you'd put 3. If it's to the 4th power, 10th power, that's an overview. Brad Williams, XL Prime. Thanks.